Okay, I guess I'm up next. I guess if you've been watching TV, listening to the radio, or reading a newspaper, you've probably heard of many current instances of ethics in technology in the news, which is what I wanted to talk a little bit about. There are privacy issues that came up recently leading to the suicide of Tyler Clementi. There are cyberbullying that also have been leading to suicide. People have been fired from their jobs because of Facebook postings that they've had. So it's all around us all the time. We hear about it every day, pretty much every day. In the 21st century, school technology use is ubiquitous, but the ethical issues remain unaddressed. In a survey that was done recently, K12 students, they found that K12 students received little to no training in cyber ethics. A third of the teachers surveyed had not taught any topics related to cyber ethics in the past 12 months, which reflects what Ina mentioned before. Teachers feel unprepared to teach about ethics. So there's an opening here, perhaps, for what we need to be doing. And there are many topics that are related to ethics today when we talk about technology tools. However, as we are limited in time here to my little 10-minute spot, what I thought I would do is just look at one little piece of the ethics implications, ethics issues, and that would be in terms of changing one's cyber identity within the technology. And so I guess, and the other thing I wanted to address is how can we alert children of the dangers of the internet and maybe provide some suggestions for how they can be prevented from being harmed by this possible issue. One of the attributes that we have of exchanging email is that you can correspond with people that you don't know. I mean, complete strangers will meet out there on email or somewhere on the internet, and you have no idea who they are. One of the drawbacks about being out there is that you don't know who they are, which means that you can now fabricate your identity because nobody knows who you are. So you can become someone else completely. You can change your identity. So I have a friend who is short, who is bald, when he puts himself out there in cyberspace, he is tall, blue-eyed, macho man. So the question is he being creative or is he being cavalier? Is this ethical? I guess I'm not going to come to too many conclusions, but I'd like to put out some ideas, for thought about all of this. It is known that people sometimes are not completely truthful when they publicize their personal data. We know this, and my friend is just one instance of it. But we also hear about the middle-aged men who are preying on the poor, naive teenage girls and trying to entrap them. And I guess most would probably agree that this is not ethical behavior and that is really unacceptable behavior when they're doing it with a goal in mind. Changing or fabricating your ID occurs a lot in cyberspace. I think there are many instances of it. And video games, for example. Video games and websites like Second Life. Are you familiar with Second Life? Where you create an avatar. And the avatar can be very much like yourself, or it can be completely opposite. You can change your gender. You can become an animal if you want. Anything goes. So the creativity is assumed when you're in that particular environment. Another example, Facebook. Facebook is meant for people, yet I know of a number of people that have accounts for their pets. You know anybody like that? I have a friend who has a cat. Bunny has her account. Parents fake their identities in hopes of befriending their own children and their children's friends. Is this ethical? There's software out there, very easy to edit pictures. You take the head of one person and put it on the body of somebody else, and voila, we have a new person. The false IDs with the compromising situations. This is probably unethical. I think Well, again, I don't know, maybe there's a reason that somebody might want to do that. They do it all the time on Saturday Night Live and some of these other shows, where they put bodies in people. So that's probably unethical. So Strom and Strom in 2007 cited a national survey of 1,600 middle and high school parents. And they were asked to rank the relative importance of teaching 11 character development values. And the highest rated value, 91% of the parents that responded to this, thought that their children should be, fill in the blank, what do you think? What do you think the highest character development? They should be honest and truthful. So, okay. Seems like there's a little communication lapse here between what the values of the children are, the parents are, and what is really happening in cyberspace. So I guess, my feeling is that children are getting a mixed message here. Is it okay to be, to have a false identity when you're in cyberspace, but yet when you're in the real world, you have to be completely honest? Or maybe it's okay to be honest or dishonest all the time. We can lie here, we can lie there, or fabricate, however strong word you want to use. So, that's one part of it. The idea that children may be comfortable using technology, and they are. We have a digital generation of people that are very comfortable using any kind of technology, and they're probably better than their parents or their parents' parents. But yet they really don't know about the use and the misuse of that technology, and that actually came from a couple of researchers, Brender and Englander and Shank, two separate articles that talked about that children being able to use the technology but not being aware of the misuse of it. So that brings us to something called good digital citizenship. What is a good digital citizen? And a person using the digital in the digital world in cyberspace. And according to Villano, 2008, a good digital citizen follows the same guidelines as a citizen on the ground or on the playground I saw someplace. Obey the law, have respect for others, act civilly and sensibly. Examples of a good digital citizen is one who protects personal information, turns off the cell phone in class. An example of a bad digital citizen is one who misrepresents oneself on Facebook and forwards pictures of friends in compromising positions. And I would also add cyberbullying. And I think schools are now aware that there are some problems with all this, particularly with cyberbullying. Cyberbullying has somehow or other become the focal point in schools because I think it's always been there. We talked about this actually yesterday, and the idea of the bullying I think has always been around, and there probably have been suicides because of that in the past, but the cyberbullying thing has really caught the attention of media and parents and everybody else. So schools are doing something about this. They're organizing parent-student workshops, parent-teacher conferences, workshops for the students, and online classes for teachers. So they're trying to help adults to work with the kids so that they have a better idea of what is acceptable and what isn't. And I think the idea of having, what a good digital citizen is and what a bad, having these examples and non-examples, I think is also very useful. Massachusetts and some other states have now passed some legislation on this, which is, to me, that's really, big stuff, that they're now legislating this. The teachers have now the responsibility to respond to report and address cyberbullying. So if they see it, they've got to do something about it. So I guess, we need to think about, what do we need to tell kids about being safe in this environment, in the online environment. Certainly, I think kids need to be warned about people masquerading as somebody else. And I think we as adults probably understand that, but maybe it's not quite so obvious to young children, that they shouldn't go to private chat rooms unless they have some parental agreement. They shouldn't meet anybody online without a parental permission. But of course, that's really difficult. That's hard for parents. But they need to be monitoring what their kids are doing. Teachers need to be monitoring what the kids are doing when they're online in school. as children grow older, they need to be able to take more responsibility for their own work. But when they're young, I think it's really important for them to be mentored and monitored. Privacy settings in the Facebook environment. I know just recently a woman was online on her Facebook page, and she was complaining about her employer. She was employed by an organization, and we still can't figure out why she did this. Some of the people that were her friends on Facebook were the president of the organization and members of the organization, and who she thought she was talking to, we can't figure out unless she had a death wish, but she did lose her job because of it. So, the idea that there are privacy settings that you can control, not everybody has to see what's out there. I think that's a really important item that we need to teach kids. And be careful what you're posting online. I mean, when I first started doing email, that was the thing, don't put anything on email or any place on the internet that you wouldn't like to see posted on the 6 o'clock news, because it's so easy to take anything that's there and publicize it. It's all over the media. So again, children need to be doubly careful about this, and they need to be taught these things, because I don't think it comes naturally. They are very good with using the technology, but they're not really good with how it can be misused and abused. So I guess my last thought that I wanted to leave with you, that it seems to be a trend now, mandating by law what teachers should teach regarding aspects of online use. And my question is, do you think we need laws for this? Or is this something that should be, part of our ethical being, that, we shouldn't have to do this? So that was my ending thought.